I'm joined by Secretary Linda McMahon, Education Secretary. Secretary, nice to see you again. I got to tell you, I got to spend a little time with the President yesterday in an off-record setting, and he was praising you in an off-record setting.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, so he didn't have to. So he obviously thinks highly of what you're doing, which is trying to put yourself out of a job while you send education back to the states. I've got some specifics, but just give us an update on how that's going.
Well, I think it's going very well. You know, we've been focusing this past year on what the President is trying to do, and that is return education to the states. You know, when you think about it, Brian, the state education budget is funded at the state level at about 90%. Only about 10% comes from the federal government. And the Department of Education does not control curriculum. We don't buy books. We don't hire teachers. We don't do any of that. So what do? We provide a channel for funding of money that is appropriated by Congress to get back to the states. We want to take the regulations away from that so that teachers can be innovative in the classroom. And that's really the goal. I think we're moving a lot in that right direction.
So a lot of the affordability issues that we're facing are education related. I don't know if that's the main driving factor, but it's certainly a factor for a lot of families. They've taken on a lot of loans for degrees. They don't get them very far. And I know this has been a subject for some of the tax cuts that have been proposed, trying to get people into either vocational education or try to make it so that they have a better plan for handling expensive student debt that could come their way down the road for families. What are the innovations that the President's recommending or have in place?
It is really a top priority of his. Do you realize that about 23% of bachelor degrees leave people worse off?
Yeah.
And about 43% of graduate degrees leave them worse off. So part of the goal really is to make sure that we have different pathways. It's a different way of looking at education. You know, in the past, for many, many years, we thought you have to get a 4-year degree. And we found that we have a workforce shortage in our country. We're going to have about 2.1 million shortage of workforce by 2030 if we don't change some things of what we're doing. And so the President has been working with, we got short-term Pell Grants passed, because that's going to be very important so that people have access. They don't have to spend 2 years, 4 years so they can get a certificate or to be able to go into the workforce.
So break down that specifically, because I know some people in the audience will benefit from that directly.
Well, Workforce Pell was part of the One Big Beautiful Bill that was passed. So now you can go to a trade school or community college, and there's shorter terms, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, other times shorter the time you have to be in the classroom. And these community colleges are also, or trade schools are working with high schools so that students actually in high school now can be accessing some of these programs. They can graduate with a dual credential, their diploma from high school, but also their certificate from the community college, which they've gotten at no charge because of that relationship. So students going directly more into the workforce, or they have the ability to go into the community college, spend less time, and get out into the workforce quicker. So it's a win-win.
This seems like such an essential thing for families. I was just thinking about, I have a personal friend who got a women's and gender study degree, and it costs exactly the same as a STEM degree. And there's no money in it, and she took on a mountain of debt, and it's going to take decades to pay down. So it's a big hoax perpetrated by the university. So how do we get out of that mindset as a culture?
Well, it is a mindset, but I think we are slowly, evolving out of that culture, because we're seeing the fastest growing group of millionaires in the country are our tradespeople. Yeah. Our carpenters, our HVAC people, all of those. So it is, we can't look at it anymore like it was a default position for education. Hey, my kid wasn't smart enough to go to college, so they'll become a tradesperson. No. These are excellent, excellent jobs. Yeah. A lot of them involve AI technology. A lot of them involve very sophisticated, manufacturing skills. And so these are things that we can really train people for, and they're going to make really good money, have a very good living, start their own businesses, do all of that, and help shore up the workforce shortage we see in the country.
How do we touch base with where we're at in terms of keeping people prepared in terms of basic education? It feels like the President cites how he's disappointed in some of our standardized testing scores, and this is just real deep down institutional problems. A lot of it comes from the unions, I think, going easy on teachers, but it's a really complex problem. What are the first steps that you're taking to try to address this?
Well, what we're seeing, these innovations are being taken at the state level. I'm really proud to say that, because that's where innovation happens. The state of Mississippi, at the Mississippi Miracle, they got back to the science of reading, gone back to teaching phonics, etc. Louisiana adopted the same program. Florida, Iowa, Tennessee, Texas.
Yeah.
And so these innovations are happening at the state level. We're seeing these scores come up. Louisiana went from next to last to about middle of the pack in just about a year and a half. The president wasn't just disappointed, he was angry when he saw those scores, the National Report Card or NAEP scores. He said, this is the greatest country in the world. How can we be failing our students, in educating them? You cannot force education down from the central authority of the federal government. It just doesn't work. It's been tried with the best of intentions, with No Child Left Behind, core curriculum, Race to the Top, and all of them have merit and had good intentions, but they just didn't work. It has to start at the state level.
At a realistic level, it doesn't really start in the home with families also, because I just find that with my kids, when they're getting attention, they learn very quickly. When they're not getting attention, and you just leave it to the schools, and they go to decent schools, it feels like that's not enough. There needs to be attention that's paid. And it can't just be, I think the teachers union gives people the impression that if you drop the kids off at school, they should come back and that's all you need to do.
And they'll be educated.
Yeah.
I strongly stress anytime that I'm speaking with groups at all, parental involvement. You have to be involved in your school board. That was one of the silver linings of COVID, that parents for the first time saw a lot of the curriculum that their students were being taught. But parental involvement, we have absenteeism across the country. Parents have to make sure their kids get to school. They have to help check on their homework. They have to have that involvement. And when we see that parental involvement, with students, no different than parents going and cheering from the sideline when their kids are playing sports.
Right.
Be involved in what your kids are doing, and they will have a greater opportunity for success.
So America 250 celebrating. Did we come up with a branding for it? I don't know if anyone did, but this is a big moment to reflect on our history, which is really amazing. It's interesting to spend time with the president because he's very interested in our history, and I feel like he likes that part of the office, about how that he always feels like he's learning something new, historical, about the country. I love that approach, that attitude. What do you do to make the most of this year, this opportunity to kind of reflect on the amazing history that we have?
We're doing a couple of things at the Department of Education. One is called our History Rocks Tour. And I've been now to about 13 states. It's an assembly program that happens in the schools. It's competitive questions about the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and specific questions relative to state history, which and the kids in the auditorium are really enthusiastically embracing it. They have a lot of fun. They get some T-shirts, they get hats, but really it's the focus on civics and history. The other thing is the Presidential 1776 Award for the 1776 Scholar. And that competition is ongoing right now. We have over 8,000 kids that have registered online to take the impossible test. And that test will finish up on February 28th, I think it is. Then we'll go from local to district competitions, and finally it'll wind up in Washington late June, early July of this year. And again, it's we call it the impossible test because it's 90 minutes, over 4,000 civics history questions. And how many can you get done and get done right? And in the end, the winner will be announced, and there's over $200,000 in scholarship awards that'll happen right around the big celebration in July. So it's a really big focus. It's fun.
There's a website for this, right?
Yes, there is.
Where do we go for that?
Just go. You know what? If you go to the ed.gov, you can go over to that.
Okay, great. People should do that, and even if you don't get the scholarship, you're going to learn a little bit about our country.
And it's just fun. And the enthusiasm which kids signed up for it, I think, is really great.
So what steps do you think are necessary so we don't need a Department of Education anymore? I know that's part of the gig that you got going, is try to, what's in front of us? Before
1980, there was no Department of Education.
Yes.
And, people went to school. Funding always went to the states. There wasn't any interruption. In fact, when the government shut down, a few weeks ago, nothing happened on the local level relative to schools. So, I really think that what we need to look at is where a lot of the programs that rest now in the Department of Education can best reside in other agencies, maybe where they used to be, and operate more efficiently without overlap. Especially like Department of Labor. Do you realize there were 23 workforce programs across all of government? Well, that's just crazy. So we're trying to concentrate all of those workforce programs really in the Department of Labor, moving out our WIOA programs, our Octave programs into the Department of Labor.
That's very interesting because if we're trying to get people into vocational work,
that's right.
Then it should.
And this is being done by signing an interagency agreement.
Yeah.
It's our budget. It's our people that we put over in the department to manage it and to teach, the program. But hopefully it's a proof of concept that this is a great place for these programs to reside.
Okay, so a couple questions to wrap up here. First thing is for parents who are watching, what should they be doing to keep an eye on their schools? I'm saying if realistic, busy families who are not going to necessarily be able to do a homeschool type situation. What do you think are really good steps they can do to make sure that they're holding their teachers and their schools accountable and that they're productive members of their school community?
Well, I urge parents to go to school board meetings. I think that that's one, or to run for the school board.
Sure.
Because I think that's a great place where they can learn, what's going on in their schools. Schedule conferences with teachers. I mean, I know that there are parent-teacher conferences that happen to get an update on the progress that your children is making, but be involved in what your children are doing. Take a look at their homework. It's astounding to me. I've looked at some of my grandchildren's homework now, and it's so sophisticated and incredibly impressive to look at what they are learning and studying. But some you might question.
So State of the Union, were you there?
Yeah, I was.
Any highlights for you?
Well, I thought the president delivered a marvelously uplifting speech, but he also took opportunity, which he should have, to tout the successes that he'd had during the first year of his administration. I was very happy to hear that. I think that it was a very forward-looking speech about the access to the American dream.
Yes.
And the things that he's putting in place to make that happen.
And that was very exciting. He just has such a youthful approach.
He does.
And I just think that's really inspires me personally.
Well, it was very inspirational, especially the Purple Hearts.
Yes.
The Medal of Honors that he gave out, during the evening, and some of the really heartstring stories, about children who have been trafficked and the terrible incidents of the storms. But when he was able to bring in, the young Coast Guard rescuer for the schools in Texas, I thought that was so heartwarming. And it was a great vibe, I thought, in the chamber last night.
All right, last one. So you've put yourself out of a job. There's no education secretary anymore. What's your next cabinet post?
Well, let's see what happens.
I was trying to get you in trouble there. Secretary McMahon,
Thank
nice
you.
to see you.
Very nice to see you too.